Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this week's episode of the Hardwood Nation podcast with your boy CL Anthony and my main man Bryce Ward. What's going on, Bryce?
Same as always, buddy. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. It was the Basketball Hall of Fame weekend. I've been watching these speeches. I love it. I love it. I love it. So we're going to get into it early today. Emmanuel Ginobili, one of the greatest international players that we've ever seen with his international career and also his NBA career. Give me some thoughts on him as he entered the Hall of Fame this weekend.
Well, the experience I have with Manu is nothing but it's like poise and like professionalism and basically what what you envision like an athlete on a team like the Spurs should be. That all those guys, including Pop, they exude like a tone of like steadiness and like I don't know, like a constant in the NBA. And Manu was a big part of that respect that they built up there for so many years. People like to knock on like they weren't the most exciting team, but they were hell to play against, and they had one of the best players ever in Tim Duncan. They had one of the best coaches ever in Pop, but more than that, it seemed like they had one of the best systems ever. And Manu was a guy who came in and really seemed to buy into that system and to know his role. He was, no one's ever going to say the man's not talented, but, for, I don't know, most of his career, he was like the sixth man, right? He was such a big part of that team. But being that meant he had to know his role. And for someone that it like who he is, that might have been hard to swallow, but doing what needed to be done for the sake of the team cemented everybody's legacy, and he's a big part of that. I mean, when you think of those the big three, like for those Spurs years, you think of Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili, and Tony Parker. So he's, Tim Duncan might have been the most important reason that they had so much success, him and Pop, but it can't be understated what it meant for those other guys to be there and what they brought to the table, because there's not a team ever that would have been like, that wouldn't have wanted a guy like Manu Ginobili on their team. And he could have started in most places. So it's not, there's nothing ever bad. You'll never hear me say anything bad about those guys, that team. And I think what he's done, what he accomplished, especially coming over and being a foreign player at the time and being the type of foreign player at the time, like more of a smaller player, not a big man, doing more exciting things and seeing an international player play in an exciting way. Like I said, he inspired a lot. That team inspired a lot. The team was one of the best teams we've ever seen, and he's more than deserving to be there. So I got nothing but great things and flowers to give to Manu Ginobili.
We're definitely going to give Manu his flowers today. And you spoke of something that was great that a lot of people don't speak on, as far as him going to the bench, not the beach, but him going to the bench. That was a great move by the Spurs to do that, but it was also a humbling move, in a good way, just showing how humble of a person he is, because a lot of people wouldn't do that. So there's whispers that the Lakers are going to try to force Westbrook to the bench. He doesn't like it. Or Allen Iverson didn't like being on the bench, and they effectively wiped him out of the league because of it. So when you see players like Manu Ginobili do it, and I'll also say Dwayne Wade, because he did it his last couple of years in the NBA, it shows a sacrifice and a humble nature that a lot of professional athletes don't have. Another thing to me with Emmanuel Ginobili was he was one of the first players that I saw implement the Euro step in the NBA. So that was great too, because he did kind of revolutionize the game from that standpoint, because everyone does it now. We have centers out here trying to do Euro steps now. So to me, he was one of the first ones to do that. So kudos to Manu. Kudos to the Spurs organization because they have 2 of their big 3 in the Hall of Fame. Let me ask you this question. Do you think Tony Parker gets in eventually?
Based on the criteria we've seen other people get in, probably.
Okay. The Basketball Hall of Fame, because for the kiddies out there, it's not the NBA Hall of Fame. The Basketball Hall of Fame is one of the easiest Hall of Fames to get into, and that's not knocking Tony Parker at all. But you have your international career, your college career, your NBA career kind of all meshed into one. So it is the easiest Hall of Fame to get into. So I think you will see Tony Parker in there one day, and it'll be great. That'd be a great feat. That'd be a great feat.
Do you think he belongs in there?
I don't think he's a Hall of Fame player, but I'm not voting. I'm not voting.
Is it just too easy to make an argument for him being the starting point guard on those championship teams because of the rings? If they hadn't won rings, I think it's a different conversation.
Right. And then we keep it raw here. We tell the truth. Personally, I don't like Tony Parker. You fucked your teammate's wife while you were married to Eva Longoria of all women in the world. You're already married to one of the most beautiful women in the world at the time, and then you go fuck your teammate's wife. Brent Berry, I will always support you. Fuck Tony Parker.
Who's your favorite point guard, Derek Fisher or Tony Parker?
That was so unexpected. Ooh, that was so...
Thought you might like that.
Wow. Tony Parker never got the shit beat out of him. Derek Fisher did. Tony Parker wins that. Tony Parker wins that. Okay. Tony Parker wins that. Wow. That's a great question, though. Mm-hmm. Very great question. Wow. So, one of my favorite point guards of all time entered the Hall of Fame as well. Tim Hardaway Sr., I have to say senior now since junior's playing in the league, entered the Basketball Hall of Fame. And I heard him in an interview, and he said when he saw the Hall of Fame number pop up on his phone, he didn't want to answer this year because he didn't want them to tell him no anymore because the last few years he's been getting a lot of no's. Like, Timmy, you didn't make it. So he answered it. He got in. As a child, he was like the first point guard that I attached myself to just because he was the point guard on my team. He had a fire, a feistiness. He was in the tail end of his career at that point. But he hit big shots when the Miami Heat needed him to hit big shots. Unfortunately, because he was on the tail end, there are a lot of injuries in those last years, and we really couldn't have him during the playoffs a lot of times when we needed him to be the guy. But I never held that against him. But I know you didn't watch Tim Hardaway play a lot, but imagine a slightly taller Kyle Lowry with better handles and a slightly better three-point shot. And that's what you have in Tim Hardaway. They're very similar.
Was he in shape?
Sometimes.
Okay.
Not all the time, but sometimes. And ironically, his son is taller, leaner, more muscular. Like, I don't know where his son got his NBA body from. But Tim Hardaway is kind of like Kyle Lowry. That's the best way I could put it. But Kyle can be a dick, but he smiles at you. Tim Hardaway can be a dick, and he's not going to smile at you. Like, he was a mean son of a bitch on the court. And that's what I liked about him. So he was able to get in. Excuse me. And then he thanked his idol, Isaiah Thomas, Detroit Pistons Isaiah Thomas, because Tim Hardaway was a Chicago boy. And that's probably where he got a lot of his swag from. But we talked about Manu Ginobili kind of bringing the Euro step to the NBA. Tim Hardaway is actually the father of the crossover. I saw clips of him when he was in Golden State in his younger years before he tore his knee up. And that crossover was sick. It was nasty. By the time he got to Miami, Crossover was a little slower. But as far as players utilizing the crossover, how impactful do you think that move is, considering every point guard or every player uses that multiple times in the game? Let's give some love to the killer crossover.
Well, it's like you brought up the Euro step with Manu. This was one of those moves that just like became. It's almost like normal, like to see everybody with a crossover. It's like even guys that don't have any business doing a crossover, they're like, I got a crossover. But then it became so much bigger too with like the emergence of Allen Iverson, because that was, you know, so famously used in the video against Jordan, where, you know, Iverson popped again. So it was like ripe. It was a ripe time for something like that. You know what I mean? It was just the emergence and the evolution of the style of basketball, the speed and the athleticism of what the guards could do, and it was just like inevitable, kind of. But to see what it became and how important it is to have that in your bag if you're a quote unquote ball handler. You know, these guys paved the way for, you know, showing other people this is how you need to handle the ball going forward, and this is what you need to be able to do. And then we've seen guys evolve like Kyrie Irving, who's arguably the best ball handler in terms of what he can do on the dribble and stuff in history. You know, I don't know if we're going to see much better than that, but then there'll be an evolution. There'll be something else. The Euro step came along. You know, there's just things that right now we're in a big, like, pick and pop. It's a 3-point style game with people running around trying to create space. You know, for a lot of teams, that's what it is. And a lot of teams, they want the size and the length and the athleticism so people can keep popping in and out of defense and cover these guys. Like, it's all constantly evolving. But in terms of what the guards are expected to do, the crossover and these other technical moves that weren't along before, you know, it's basically a bottom line necessary nowadays. And to see those old guys like bring it to the actual game and see it evolve, it's all just really interesting. And if you've been watching ball for even a little bit of time, you can start to see those things incorporate and see them come in, and it's fun to watch.
Mm-hmm. It is absolutely fun to watch, to see the game evolving, especially from a big man's league to now a guard dominant league, and seeing the skillful dribbling that we have. Now, when the kids do it on the basketball courts, you know, when we used to travel the courts and stuff, I used to laugh at them because they would put on this like 20-second dribbling exhibition just to miss the shot or miss the layup. And I'm like, you're wasting the fucking time. Like, what is this? You know what I'm saying?
And one really didn't help with that. And one kind of was like, everybody should have their own it's like their own expression of dribbling. You know, the NBA is like, we don't need that. But yeah.
And one, actually, I don't know why I've been on this basketball documentary kick, but and one had a documentary drop a couple of months ago on Netflix, and I actually watched it. And it was good, and it was sad because it brought back some old memories. You know, all those guys disappeared. Every one of them disappeared. You know, mismanagement.
The way it blew up, it like came back down almost as fast. But I mean, between the shoes and the videos, it was massive.
It was massive. Yeah.
It was crazy.
Yeah. They dropped the ball tremendously on that. But that'll be for another video. George Karl, the 6th all-time winningest head coach in the NBA, never had a great basketball career as far as playing. He played in the ABA with the San Antonio Spurs. Yes, kiddies, the San Antonio Spurs were in the ABA. Was also inducted into the Hall of Fame last night. And George Karl was a fiery head coach. Didn't take shit from players. Led the Seattle Sonics to the 1996 NBA Finals and lost to Michael Jordan like a lot of the great teams did. Later in his career, had a young Carmelo Anthony and tried to mold him. Didn't work out, you know. He said something last night that I didn't know for sure if it was a shot at Carmelo or not, but he said that the greatest time he had coaching was after Carmelo was traded, and he had a team with no all-stars win 57 games. And I didn't know how to take it. I'm like, are you taking a shot at Melo or are you not taking a shot at Melo?
He's just reminding everyone that he did well without him. It's a shot and it's like a flex, I guess.
It's like, we're doing this at the Hall of Fame again. Like, come on. But I got love for George Karl because, again, when I was a kid growing up, those Seattle teams were beasts with Gary Payton, Sean Kemp, Nate McMillan, Detlef Schrempf. I mean, absolute beast of a team. And speaking of the Sonics, we might have an announcement next month, by the way.
George Karl. The rumor is they're going to announce it after the TV deal contract gets finished.
I think it's the first week of October. They're saying they're going to announce it, so we're extremely, extremely close. I do think that the name Sonics will leave OKC and head back to Seattle. I think that was part of the agreement. So if I know we've gone off on a tangent here. If they put a team in Seattle and don't name it the Sonics, it's a slap in the face to the fans.
I don't think there's any way they don't.
It's a slap in the face to the fans. But remember now, what they did in Charlotte, they gave them the team back and then changed it to the Bobcats. They're like, what the fuck? You know, finally they reverted it back to the Hornets. So let's see.
It's hard to fumble that move. I feel like people are still wearing Supersonic gear.
Right. Dude,
Come on.
Dude.
I'm more interested because that seems like a no-brainer. I'm more interested than like what the Vegas name is going to be. Like, what are they going to be? All like completely new.
Whatever LeBron wants them to be.
They're going to be the Las Vegas LeBron.
Yeah, whatever LeBron wants them to be, because he's going to be the owner. Wink, wink. So whatever they want. Hey, check this out. We're breaking news right here on the Hardwood Nation podcast. I'm calling it right now. Once the Sonics are up and running, Kevin Durant's going to want to go back because they're the franchise that drafted him. He's going to want to go back to Seattle.
It depends what they have to offer because he's not going to want to actually, will his team to a championship. They're going to need like two other superstars for him to even entertain the idea of going there.
Hey, they get Westbrook back too. Westbrook was actually the last draft pick of the Seattle Sonics.
I haven't been around paying attention for an expansion draft. Mm-hmm. So what's the deal with that? Do teams have a couple people that they for sure, like they're like, you can't touch these guys, and then the teams have access to pick a guy from like every team or something? Or I mean, not every team, but whatever.
It has been so long that I don't remember the specifics of it. It has been a long time since we've done this, so I don't remember exactly how it works. But like, I want to say it's players not on a contract. I don't believe. So it's like, let me stop myself. I don't remember. I'm not going to get us in any trouble. I will research that and we will revisit that when it comes closer to fruition. So once we have the official, like we knew last year they were going to do this. Once we have the official announcement, then we'll go into that. One thing I want to say to cap off the Hall of Fame discussion, because we have to move on. Next year, we're going to have Dirk and Dwayne Wade as possible first-year entrants into the Basketball Hall of Fame.
That'll be a big one.
I am going to lose my everlasting shit. You hear me? I'm going to be a wreck. I might take the whole week off from work. I might try to go up there. I'm going to be an absolute wreck when Dwayne Tyrone Wade Jr. enters the Hall of Fame. I want you to know.
I guess they both deserve it.
Oh, man. And then Dirk and his football team of sons, he got all those boys. They got 4 boys, man.
He's trying to keep that Nowinski name on the map.
That's a blessing. But yeah, so that next year is going to be. I've never done this before, but I might actually have to talk to my NBA Connect and be like, because I don't know if he went up there this year. I got to check his Facebook. I might have to be like, bro, you got to let me go. Like, you have to let me go to that one. I might have to talk to him offline. Yeah, dude, yeah, I might have to. So moving right along, what was your first memory of hearing about Tim Donahue.
I'm trying to think. What year was that?
2007.
Okay. I was I was graduating high school that year, and it was about the same time I was getting into basketball again because what was it? I think it was 09. 08, 09 finals was the Lakers Magic finals. It was the next year I went to that finals. Anyways, we're getting back into basketball at that time. And that story really started making the rounds. And then that's all you heard about. And there's always been these rumors for a long time that, of course, these things are happening. And, it seems like all sports leagues tend to go through the struggle from one time to another. We know just recently, the Houston Astros in baseball got in trouble for cheating. There's always been the Deflategate and the controversy around the Patriots and their winning seasons.
Go ahead and call out Tom Brady. Say it by name. Tom Brady did it. Say it by name.
It was the coach, I think. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That guy looks scary as fuck. So I'm pretty sure it's him. But anyways, it just seems like it's something that is definitely around, and it'll be around as long as there's people officiating games in any sport. It could be around. So, but basketball, it's really easy if you're a ref and you need a game to go one way. It's really easy to fill your fingerprint on the game or to see it because there's less players on the court. There's just like it's easier to affect change with one or two guys. And for example, you give that Magic team back then with Dwight Howard, you give him 2 fouls in the first quarter, and you've really handicapped that team. So as a ref, it's really easy to change the course of an NBA game compared to maybe some other sports. But when those stories started hitting the rounds, a lot of people, it just reassured what their opinion was. They're like, we've known this shit's been going on, maybe just not to the scope. And the thing is, though, they still, it's like they gave us a nugget, a treat, because they knew the info was going to come out, so they had to have their little sacrificial lamb. But to act like he's the only one, I feel like is the real spit in the face. Like, stop. You just gave us the tip of the iceberg. You didn't give us any more than you wanted to give, but we know. We know there's more going on. And it seems to really be, like, blatantly obvious sometimes in playoffs. We talked about it this last year. And some people just call us biased, or some people buy into it all together, think it's way worse than it is. It's just, it's always going to be there. And the NBA is going to have to find ways around it, or to be even more transparent and better at picking officials and holding them accountable. Because right now, it seems like a lot of what they're offering us in terms of making us feel better about trusting these refs, it's more surface level, like this 2-minute, the shit at the end, the 2-minute review stuff. It doesn't affect the outcome of the game. It just it changes changes the decision afterward. But if a team won a game because of it, they still won that game.
Right.
So it's like it's kind of on the right track, but it's not there yet. And like, he didn't get convicted or charged exactly on fixing games, just betting on them. The FBI and the NBA both came out and said with their investigations that he wasn't fixing games technically, but that seems like if you're doing one, kind of aren't you doing the other? That's how I'm looking at it to begin with. Like, if you're affecting the game at all to make some money on some bet, it's like, isn't that technically fixing it in one way or another? Like, at least a little bit. And the whole thing is just super gross. I got nothing but just total disrespect for those people. And I get it because you're a human being, but it's like, it's a sport, it's a competition, it's a game. It's like, we want to see who the best, like, I want to see who the best is. I want to see who wins when you got two of the best players and the two of the best teams, and then you have this total shadowy side of it that most people aren't even aware is in the game happening. And the next thing you know, your best player's on the foul line like 80 times for his team. I don't. It's just it takes away from the magic of sports and these guys who are doing it for a quick buck or a large, a large payout. I get it, but it ruins the magic of the sport altogether. It makes you not want to watch it. This last playoff, some of it was really hard because in my eyes it was blatant, and I could be wrong. I get it, but for someone who loves the sport to watch it and to feel like some of it's just helplessness because the refs are going to do what they need to do. It's super gross. It could turn a lot of people off from the sport. The audience has been growing and growing like crazy, especially like over the course of like 30, 40 years. It's massive, but it's still growing. It's still growing. We're still attracting new fans, but this is the image you want to put out there is that, you have this kind of level for the refs, and this is like the bottom line, and this is what we're used to. I just think it's a bad look going forward, and they just need to keep clearing up as much as they can and getting rid of the bad refs as quickly as they can and figuring out what's going on because I feel like that's the last thing you want when you're growing an audience in a sport.
It is gross. Like you said, this year, this past playoffs, as I've said before many times on here, it took me months to get over the Boston Miami series. It just took me. The refereeing was so horrible. There's a lot of things that were said. There are a lot of things that were not said in the Netflix documentary. You and I have joked that we would call David Stern Emperor Palpatine. He went absolutely Death Star 2 mode to get the story kind of under wraps. He had to, because if he didn't, the NBA wouldn't be around right now. One of the documents said that they interviewed 60 referees and 52 of them admitted to fixing games at that time. 52 out of 60. Now, some of these guys went away. They didn't. I'm not saying they died, but they just went away. They didn't have jobs in the NBA anymore under mysterious circumstances.
Did the Pope move them to their little country in there in Italy? Keep them safe.
Look, David Stern had to do some things.
Bunch of refs and boy touchers over there.
David Stern had to do some things. Okay, so it is. We both love this league. So I understand the pressure that he had to make sure the league didn't go under because it would have happened. Like you would have had to revamp everything. You would have had to do a new name. You would have had to do all this shit because the NBA as a brand, the National Basketball Association, would have died. Would have died. So they had to put it on one guy. they had to. Crisis management, you have to do that. That's from a business standpoint. Now, from a fan standpoint, it's inexcusable that they had to do that. I'm not going to put the blame on Tim Donaghy 100% because, here it is, it's mandated from the league. The league determines who wins, who loses. So it wasn't a rogue referee problem as David Stern made it seem like. It is in fact a league problem. And like he even said, hey, they wanted to crack down on traveling. Anyone who watches basketball knows that everyone travels, right? And he called it on Michael Jordan one of his first few years in the league. And then an older ref pulled him aside and say, we don't call it on that guy. You get what I'm saying? So even little things like that can dictate the flow of a game.
It's really like a wrestling match where the best wrestlers get benefit of the doubt, and then they already have who's going to win preset. Right. And then you let those guys run in and play around within that, but they've already decided who has won. And if you're an up and coming supporting team, like if you're anybody in the middle or anybody that's not 100% like the best team, that's demoralizing because you're not going to win. I mean, you're not going to win the championship.
It is.
That's ridiculous, man.
And that's why I was in such a funk after Boston Miami, because I kept seeing, dude, we were one shot away, ball in Jimmy Butler's hand, to win a fucking series where we had everything stacked against us because the NBA wanted Boston in the finals. It was ridiculous, the officiating in that series. And it is demoralizing because after everything we had to go through, we still had a shot to win the game. Not blaming Jimmy Butler, but it shouldn't have even gotten that far. That's what I'm trying to say.
What's your personal opinion? How far do you think they take it? Do you think they for sure like that?
Sure.
No, do you think they decided last year, like Golden State's going to win the championship this year? Do you think the year LeBron came back, do you think they had decided Golden State was going to win it and then they let LeBron just do his thing? Or do you think at the last, like they were like, nah, we're going to have LeBron James win this championship? Like, how bad do you think? Do you think it goes that far, like to where they're like, we're for sure going to pick this one team to win the championship? Or how do you think they let it play out?
I think it's 90% there. I think they will get you there. So, for example, they wanted Boston in the finals. They wanted Tatum, to be like the golden boy. Well, we'll get you there, but now you have to produce. You get what I'm saying?
You're saying the NBA is responsible for that win streak that they went on?
No. What I'm saying is the NBA is responsible for making calls to help Boston get to the finals. I'm not talking about the regular season, but once the playoffs start, now you can really tinker. That's what I'm talking about, because the games are going to be slower because there are more fouls called in the playoffs. Okay, so that's what I'm saying. What Boston did in the regular season, I'm not taking that away from them. They did that. But once the playoffs start, now the NBA can, because one, you have less games. If you think about it, you have less games each night. So now the NBA can really focus in and tinker on who they want to do, like a chess pieces. Put this chess piece here, put this chess piece here. Once they get to the finals, we'll step back, because the finals, if you think about it, each year, the finals is the final basketball game, series of basketball games. So therefore, you want all eyes on this series. You want all endorsements on this series. You don't like short series, because the more games you have, the more advertising you can have, right? So that's why something else I can help with. No series. So that's why the NBA goes all in to put certain matchups in the NBA Finals. They love LeBron James going to the finals every year. They didn't care who won. People were just going to watch him because he was there. That's what makes Golden State so great, because they were able to still stop him sometimes, because the NBA would have rather had LeBron James win versus Golden State win. I can guarantee that. They pump a lot of money into LeBron James. But it is an issue. They documented where, and I remember Allen Iverson going at this ref. They documented that he went after this ref. I think the NBA, I don't even think they suspended him. They maybe fined him or some shit. The refs were mad. So the next game that he was playing, they made sure they called every palming violation they could on him. It's like, why are we doing this, right? Why are we doing this? So they documented a referee that had an issue with Pat Riley. An investigator went back and watched that game. It was the Knicks playing the Heat. There were 18 fouls called, 16 went to the New York's way. How do we let this happen? How? Right? So it is a huge problem. The only way to fix it is to burn it down and rebuild it, and no one's going to do that. Yes, it's too much money involved for them to do that. I feel bad for teams who have been affected by it in the past. I have been on the right end of it, and I've been on the wrong end of it. So let's talk about the right end of it. The 2006 Miami Heat finals run against the Dallas Mavericks, there were shenanigans in that series. I didn't know what I was watching at the time, but for one player, Dwayne Wade, to get 96 free throws in 4 games is a bit odd. Let's just call it what it is. In the moment, I'm enjoying it. I'm a fan. I'm like, oh, my team's probably going to win their first championship. I don't care how many times he goes to the free throw line. But looking back at it, 96 free throws in 4 games, that's odd. And at that time, Mark Cuban was like the #1 enemy of the NBA. They hated him. They fined him every chance he got. And that was his team's first year in the finals. So, yes, I can look back on it and say, that was probably some shit. You know, because before that or since that, I haven't seen a player go to the free throw line 96 times the 4-game stretch. I haven't seen it. Someone, I'm not a stat head anymore. Someone can throw some numbers at me, but off my eye test, I haven't seen that. The Sacramento Kings and Lakers series in Game 7, where the Lakers went to the free throw line 28 times in the fourth quarter.
That's the one people really like to reference.
Forgive me, not 28 times, but they took 28 free throws in the fourth quarter.
That's the one people really like to reference in terms of like how bad it looked like visually, because everybody's like every non-basketball fans are like, what's going on here?
Right.
And then the Lakers went on to win the championship.
Yes. And that was a 7-game series in Sacramento too. Sacramento had home. I believe that game was in Sacramento, which even made it more odd because the game was in Sacramento, I believe. We've seen there was this me. He's gonna hate me for mentioning him on the podcast. Me and Gerald have discussed there's a stretch in the NBA where anytime a team got a new arena, they were in the finals the next year. Like the first year that arena was open, they were in the finals. We're like, what? And then they would get the All-Star game. What? It was weird. Just the weirdest fucking shit. So, like I said, the only reason we're talking about it now is because Netflix released this documentary, which was pretty good, a little over an hour. It was pretty good, and they talked about Tim Donaghy. But I want to leave us with this on this topic. They mentioned Tim Donaghy's best friend while he was a ref. And there are multiple phone calls made to his best friend after the games that he said he fixed. That referee is still in the league right now. That referee is considered one of the top referees in the league right now. And it is well chronicled that he has an issue with Chris Paul. And I'm talking about Scott Foster. That was Tim Donaghy's best friend. And this guy still has a fucking job. Look. Bruh. They say they don't talk now.
And they get text.
They even had Donaghy's wife on there talking about, yeah, we lost that family friend. Sure you did. There are this one bookie working with Donaghy said one night he lost $3 million and the next night he made $6 million off Donaghy's bets. Sure you did. Dude, it's crazy. It's crazy. What's crazier is Gilbert Arenas saying that players who didn't play in the 90s or 2000s up until now are not included in his top 10 of all time. Now, he didn't say who was in his top 10, but his statement would say Bill Russell wouldn't be in his top 10. Wilt Chamberlain wouldn't be in his top 10. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar wouldn't be in his top 10. Jerry West wouldn't be in his top 10. How ridiculous of a statement is that by Gilbert Arenas?
Well, it's hard for Gilbert because he seems to keep trying to top himself with ridiculous situations. But it's hard when you start with bringing a gun to the arena. So it's all downhill from there.
Mm-hmm.
And his opinions on certain players definitely seem to be a little out there. To me, honestly, what was the other thing he said? He was talking about Giannis, right? Giannis not being great. Yeah. That was the other big issue we had. He's already very quickly turning into like the worst things I dislike about like a Skip Bayless, where you're just saying the dumbest shit I've ever heard, like the dumbest. I don't know why all of a sudden Gilbert Arenas is getting attention. Maybe it's because people are just clowning on how bad his opinion is. But it's like in the short time JJ Redick's been doing the same thing, right? Being a more public commentary figure, getting on his shows. Not everything he says is spot on, like you're not going to agree with everything. Like his comment on the Plumbers defending, I think he was talking about Jerry West, right?
Yeah, he talked about Jerry West, and he didn't include Giannis in his top 3 players playing right now either.
Right. I mean, aside from that, it's like most of what JJ Redick, a lot of fans and a lot of basketball watchers can see that, and they can kind of agree with a lot of it.
Mm.
Not all of it, but like then you have a guy like Gilbert Arenas come in here and just say, like, I've heard 2 things from him, and they've both sounded really outrageous. If you're really following basketball, like. I don't understand how you can discount some of these older players. Like you can say the style and the whatever and the talent was different, whatever, but the GOATs of those era are the GOATs. Mm-hmm. Like they're not just like a nobody. There's plenty of players in the last 20 years that no one's going to really remember. They're just fill-in players, but those people that it's no different, but to say like some of these greats don't deserve to be in a top 10 because they didn't play in this era, so they didn't play the style or the speed, or they didn't have these technical moves like we were talking about earlier. That doesn't mean anything. So, these players are adaptive. You throw Jordan in a different era, he's going to play different. You throw Steph Curry in a different era, well, he might still play the 3 ball. That's just his thing. But it's just, we say it a lot, but it's like very ignorant and it's a little short-sighted by Gilbert. But then again, Gilbert isn't exactly a monk or a great philosopher or anything. Like he's made a lot of really dumb mistakes in his career. So I don't know why all of a sudden he's getting some attention. And I guess it's because of the outrageous things he's saying, but like the Giannis thing, this just seems really dumb to me. Like I don't really have much to say about it besides that. Like he's ridiculous.
Sometimes you stick a camera in front of a fool and just to see the foolish shit they're gonna say, and people get a kick out of it. And
it's a clown.
Usually the fool doesn't know that he's the fool, right? That's usually, but we're gonna stick this camera in your face, right?
Kwame Brown needs to make Gilbert a video and let him know.
Oh, they've been sniping back and forth and shit. Trust me, that's already been going on in these streets. We just haven't talked about it here. But I just, those guys are the reason that we have what we have now. So we have to get to a point where we stop disrespecting the past players, because some of these players played in a time when they were hated. Some of these players played in a time where during the off season they had to work regular jobs, like being a plumber, like being in the military, to support their families, to give the players what they have now. So we have to get to a space where we stop disrespecting older players just based on numbers. Okay, some of these teams would play 2 games a day, play in the morning and play in the night. Would you see LeBron James playing 2 games a day now? Absolutely not, right? So it's just we have to stop disrespecting the people who paved the way. It doesn't make any sense. It sounds good. Oh, their numbers aren't as good as ours. Gilbert Arenas doesn't lead any historical category in the NBA, period. Let's just be honest about that. None of it. None of them, right? So he definitely shouldn't be the guy saying shit like this. If Kareem Abdul-Jabbar came out, which I know he won't, I'm just using this as an example. If he came out and said, yeah, I played with Magic, he was a piece of shit, that would carry weight. It would never happen, but I'm saying something like that would carry weight. But Gilbert Arenas reaching back and talking shit about these guys, no.
Well, I wouldn't even take his opinion honestly about players that he played with. like his own experience. Because at this point, like, why are we talking to Gilbert Arenas? Like, what has he done? Why do we care? You can find 100 different players that I would rather hear from that play the exact same time from him. Like, I don't want to hear from him. I don't know why. And you can honor and pay respects to the new players without shitting on the old ones. You don't have to shit on the old ones. You could say, this is my top 10 list for these years. You don't have to be like, I have a top 10, these old players aren't in it because they're shit. Fuck off. Like, I don't know why all of a sudden it.
One thing I say to get back on this Giannis thing. One thing I say about Giannis hears what people say. He's not as petty as Steph, because Steph is petty in a funny way. Giannis uses his pettiness as motivation. Like, he hears what people are saying, that when they say, oh, he's not as skilled as Kevin Durant. Or Kevin Durant even saying, don't compare me to that guy. Or Gilbert Arenas saying, Giannis doesn't know basketball. Or even JJ Redick not putting him in his top 3. Giannis hears all of that. And I think Milwaukee's going to be scary this year. I really do. I know they made a mistake last year coming back with a little fat cat. Then you had the injuries and stuff like that. You're going to see a hungrier Milwaukee Bucks team this year. And I was afraid. I wanted them this past year. I don't want them this year.
You know who's what the telling side of that is? You know who does praise him? Who does not like to dish out praise, I think, to other big men is Shaq. Shaq is like, you want to see me playing now? That's him.
Yeah.
You know, Shaq was not quick to give Dwight Howard those kinds of flowers, you know, or anybody. I haven't heard him compare anybody really to himself before like that. So to hear Shaq, who had to play and probably deal with the same types of criticism as Giannis, for him to heap that kind of praise on him, that to me goes way farther than most of these other people who aren't giving him the respect. They want to crown Kevin Durant or crown a new guy, but until you're winning championships, it shouldn't go really past Giannis and the Golden State Warriors. Like, those are the two big pillars right now. Like, you're gonna have to go through if the Bucks are healthy, they're a problem because of Giannis. Golden State, they're a problem because of Steph and the rest of that team. But yeah, I don't understand the hate or the whatever criticism that Giannis gets when you have a guy like Shaq who's basically being like, yeah, that he is a big deal. He is that good.
It's not Jason Tatum's fault, but he's going to catch hell from Milwaukee this year. They're going to be – Boston's a great team, and Milwaukee still can be a great team. Those are going to be bloodbaths this year, because I just know the Bucks are not happy with how last season ended, even though – who did they lose to? They lost to Boston. But they wasn't 100% healthy. I think there's going to be a dogfight this year, especially with all the Jason Tatum talk after that series, and the league kind of trying to anoint Jason Tatum. And then Giannis is over here like, bro, I'm still 2-time MVP, 1-time NBA champion. I'm only 26, 27. What are y'all doing? Like,
they almost beat them without Chris Middleton.
They did. It went 7.
Without Chris Middleton. Yeah. That is massive.
Who was their closer? Yeah, it went 7. We all know I'm a Heat fan. I don't want to be in that fight. I'm going to be sitting on the sideline like, we'll play the winner of y'all, but we don't not before y'all play each other.
What's going to really be crazy is if Giannis can win another championship or win another MVP. It's like, how much longer are y'all going to say he's not the best when he's beating and winning all the most notable championships and titles? Like, how much longer is he not going to be the best if he keeps beating everybody? But like, if they lose, it's a different conversation. But we just don't see a world where that they're probably not one of the best teams in the league.
Yeah. No, they're exceptional. And my hot take, and then we're going to close it out. Stephen Curry and Giannis are the 2 best players in the league right now. That's my hot take. Because as you know, I'm a huge fan of Steph. Steph gets shitting on every day. They're gonna find out this year. They're gonna find out this year. All right. Well, thank
And
you, ladies.
last year, if they win it last year, the league's in trouble for a few years
We did
because
say that. No, we did say that. They're. We talked about the Nets. We talked about the Lakers. Golden State was our dark horse. So, all right. That's going to be it for this week's episode of the Hardwood Nation podcast. Thank you guys for all the subscriptions we've been getting lately. Please like, share, and comment on our content. Give us shout outs. Tell us you love us. Tell us you hate us. Tell us that Giannis isn't the best player in the league right now. Or tell us that LeBron's better than Steph. We'll reply to the comments. We're fine. We're big boys. So.
at least those are reasonable opinions, unlike the shit Gilbert Arenas spews.
Right. So with that said, everyone stay safe.